Welcome to Midwest Meets Mediterranean, Ashley.
Thank you for having me.
So, I'd like to start by saying thank you for your work. I have been doing cooking demos at the Minneapolis Farmers Market for many, many, many years. As you know, I love the market. I call it my food church. So, I remember when you were hired, how excited everyone was to have you as the new director. And now you're in your, is it fourth year?
I think it's actually going into my fifth year. I think I
Wow.
wrapped my fourth and we're going into my fifth.
And that was, you came in right on the heels of the pandemic.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Gosh, that seems like so long ago.
It does seem, and yesterday, all at the same time.
Yeah, very true.
So I want to talk about the family farm. I want to kind of get the backstory of all of this. So your family has owned and operated the 450 acre Riverside
Yeah.
Farm, not a small farm, in Elk River
No.
since the early 80s. So obviously that gives you a unique perspective and I'm sure understanding and empathy of what it takes to work the land and produce consistent quality produce in a state with a very short growing season and so many variables. I guess all states have variables. But what was it like growing up in an environment dedicated to quality that counts, that philosophy, and how does that shape your direction of the market? In other words, what tools did your upbringing give you to bring you into your role as director?
Sure. Okay. So my dad's been farming all his life. He bought his first farm in 1980 with his brother Joe. But they were kids that would go work on a farm. So they actually ended up buying their first farm, and that was the farm that they worked on as children. So that was really exciting for them. So for me, growing up on the farm, it was always a lot of fun. We always had four-wheelers to ride, tractors to go out on. My dad waters with an irrigation system, so I used to call it my big sprinkler. And I've been through that all the time. But my dad was always really busy getting stuff in the field, getting stuff out of the field, getting things weeded. So it meant a lot of long days and a lot of late nights. So my dad wasn't necessarily at home all the time. Um, so it really showed me what work ethic is, in a sense, because he was always so busy and it was always so important. And the time that I did get to spend with him was really special just because he didn't have much of it to spend. So I think it does give me a unique perspective on the other vendors at the farmers market because I know what it takes to go into the growing season and how much preparation and how much dedication it takes. But what's unique about a lot of my farmers at the farmers market, which isn't true to my father, is a lot of my vendors have 9 to 5 jobs. So they are
Oh, really?
farming plus they are a 9 to 5 job. Yes. So it isn't their primary source of income, whereas with my dad, it is. So that's something that's unique. And that's something that I really have learned to not value, but I'm really in awe of a lot of these farmers that they can do both because I know how much work and dedication it takes to growing any product.
That's okay. That leads me to my next question. I've heard you say many times that running the market feels second nature because you grew up there as a vendor. And how does the perspective of a large farm, I mean, your father dealing with greenhouses and workers and 450 acres, how did that system of management that he had in place help you deal with, you now have what, 135 vendors that you have to be accountable for?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
there's
true?
136 now, actually.
Okay.
So there is quite a few people to manage. And one of my dad's biggest things is that you need to work alongside the people that you're working with. You need to get to know them. You need to get to build a relationship with them. And he's absolutely right. It's hard to work with people if you don't actually know them, um, and that you're not able to relate to them. So my biggest thing was getting to know all these vendors because while I was a vendor myself and I grew up at the market my entire life, when you're a vendor, you don't usually get to get out of your stall too much because you're too busy selling, or that's the hopes, right? So it was really cool to be able to build relationships with people that I necessarily didn't interact with before, and also learn about their farming practices, because a lot of them are so different to my dad's farming practices. With my dad having multiple farms, which total 450 acres, which he farms, he has a lot of different practices in place that necessarily a farmer with maybe 5 acres wouldn't. So I mentioned earlier that my dad has irrigation. So he's irrigating his product, whether it's above the product or below the product. And some of the farmers at my market, they are able to water their product with like a backpack water or a water tank. So it's a very different process, and it requires a lot more of the manual labor. Um, so that's also a different dedication, in my opinion. A few years ago, we had a drought, and I know what we did, during the drought. And I was talking to a different vendor, and he said, "Well, yeah, I was just walking the rows and I took my backpack waterer out and I just chose the plants that really needed the water." And I thought, oh my God, I can't even imagine that. That's insane to me. So it's really interesting to learn everybody's farming practices and try to bring what I know from my farming background and try to relate to them. And at the same time, they're teaching me too.
So, in the course of a day, I mean, because I'm there one day a week generally, and I see how busy you are. I mean, and it starts with just organizing all of these people because they move around, and you have to decide where they're going to be and make sure that they have everything that they need. In the course of the day, how much conversation time do you really get, or is more of that during the week? Because the weekends look pretty nuts to me.
So the weekends are like playing Tetris. You have to be able to fit in your daily vendors next to your annual vendors who have permanent stalls, and your seasonal vendors who I try to keep in the same stall, and all of these things. I think that in the morning when everybody is setting up, it's kind of a more go, go, go environment. And then you kind of have a lull, and that's when I go and check in with everybody and just kind of see how, you know, things are going, if there's anything that needs to be changed with their setup, what have you. Um, but like the latter part of the day is probably where I do the most socializing, just because it seems like the market just kind of slows down just a little bit. Um, but I think that's the part of the day that I enjoy the most, because I enjoy getting to talk to these farmers that only, some of them only come in on the weekends, right? Because they have a 9 to 5 job, not able to come in during the week. So, as much as it looks like I don't have time to socialize, I definitely do.
That's great. That's great. So, and your father's stall is right outside your office.
Yeah.
Yes, so you can
Yes.
you can go and hang out with people that you know in
Yes.
between.
My dad has a wonderful man that has worked with my dad since he was 15. Now he is 63, by the name of Ladio. And Ladio is like my second dad. So I go down there and I visit with him. Sometimes we'll have a bite to eat, we'll have a coffee together, something like that. And I really enjoy that part of the market, because with him being there, it's like I'm at the farm in a
Oh,
sense.
that's so wonderful. I can't imagine having a better training program for your current role. Thank you, Riverside Farms.
Did I ever tell you that my parents met from the farmers market, or because of the farmers market?
No, you're kidding.
Yeah, so my mom actually, her cousin was a reseller at the farmers market.
Okay.
And she had said to my mom, "Sue, there's this great farmer I really want you to meet." And my mom said, I don't know. And she said, "No, come on. They're having a farmers market dance at the VFW in Hamel." And she says, you can come with us." And my mom said, "Oh, all right. What do I got to lose, you know?"
Oh my
So
goodness.
my mom walks in with her cousin and her husband, and my dad is apparently standing by the bar, kind of looking around. And you've met my dad. He's about 6'1", big guy. He doesn't say a lot, and that's kind of the charm of him. But anyway, he's looking around, and she starts looking around, and he all of a sudden says, "Are you here to meet somebody?" And she says, "Yeah." And he goes, "I think it's me."
Oh, that's darling.
Yes.
And
So,
that's how it all began.
yeah. And so, because of the Minneapolis Farmers Market, I am a person, theoretically.
I wonder how many stories, similar stories there are because there's so many families.
There's got to be quite a few of them, actually, because I mean, think of how long we've been a farmer's market and think of what a community hub it is to gather and, walk the aisles and bump into different people. So,
Well, I never thought about market romance, but that really has my mind going now. When we come back, we'll talk about the market's background, unique structure, and strategic shifts you made to keep the market relevant and successful. This episode is brought to you by Bonicelli Cooking Club, home of the Mindful Mediterranean program. If you're looking for simple, seasonal recipes, practical cooking strategies, and a more joyful way to approach food, you will find it here. Visit BonicelliCookingClub.com to learn more. So, Ashley, I would like to dig deeper into the market history. When did the market officially start?
so we've been a market for 150 years.
Get out of
So
here.
that,
Really? That long?
yeah, I know, isn't that crazy? So, we have been in our flagship location of East Lyndale since 1937. So we were a market prior to that off of North Hennepin, I believe. So I've actually got some really cool pictures from the Historical Society of what that used to look like. Because now remember, at that time, you're taking a horse and buggy to the market.
Which
Um,
explains those funny lips on all of the
yes.
sheds, right? I have tripped on those
Yes.
so many times. And then
Yeah.
when I realized they were because of the horses and buggies, I forgave them.
Yeah. Yeah. It was to back up to the catwalk there. Yeah, it's something that I would love if we could just, grow into the 21st century and change that, but apparently that's a lot of work and a lot of money.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that'll ever change, but it also kind of adds to the charm of the market, right? So yeah, 150 years.
that is really, really something. So, and the structure of the market in terms of management is unique to any farmers market that I'm aware of, in that it is actually directed by farmers.
Yes, yeah. Which I think is really cool. So we are the largest Upper Midwest outdoor farmers market, and we are also the largest farmer managed market in Minnesota. So we have a board of 7 farmers, um, and you can find them on the weekends or the weekdays at the market, which is really cool because as an organization, they know how they want to drive the bus, and necessarily somebody from outside of the farming community may not necessarily understand all of their needs. So that's why they've structured it that way.
And what is the role of the city of Minneapolis?
Oh, so we're super unique with that. Okay, so the city of Minneapolis owns our property, owns the structure, but we as an organization manage the market. So the city has nothing to do with the management or any of the organization. So every year with the city, they are gracious enough to help us out with some maintenance on the grounds. And if a toilet were to break, that's who I'm calling. It's not me that's going to go in there and fix the toilet, it's going to be the city. And with that, we do pay them a generous rent check every year. So that's very different to, I think, most farmers markets. Um, so while they are in charge of the property, they are not in charge of the daily operations.
So, a typical other farmers market structure might be a board of directors that is loosely involved in some fashion, and then some a director running it, and then the farmers are paying to be there, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So the city of Minneapolis has no day-to-day anything other than fixing the toilets and because you're a tenant.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's actually a very nice arrangement, I would think. I mean, to have autonomy over and have farmers directing day to day operations makes total sense.
It works out nicely until the weekend when something goes wrong, and then there isn't anybody there to really fix that problem because,
Right.
the city's there from Monday to Friday. So it normally works out very nicely. And the city has been really great to work with for me. So I appreciate that relationship.
So you made some big decisions early on when you came into your position. It was post pandemic, and I'm referring to the downtown market. I know that that was a Thursday thing for many, many years. How did you come to that decision and why to close it?
Sure. So I know Nicollet Mall was such a popular thing prior to the pandemic. I think that there was a lot of changes that happened with Nicollet, and it happened even. Trying to think of how long that happened. Let me say this again, because the thing is there was a bunch of construction down there, and I'm just trying to think of when that actually was, and then they had changed locations for the mall, and I think that was what started the downfall. Um, God, when did they redo Nicollet? I wish I knew the date. Okay, I'll start over. So I think with the Nicollet Mall, as popular as it was, I think that prior to the pandemic happening, there was construction down on Nicollet Mall. And I believe it was when we had the Super Bowl here. It was prior to that. Anyways, they had moved the farmers market off of Nicollet Mall. And I think that's really when Nicollet Mall started taking a downward trend.
Yes.
Um, because people were going, okay, well, now it's not right outside my office door. Now I have to walk over to, I want to say it was Washington. Ooh, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But people had to walk further to get to the farmers market. Okay, and then we fast forward, and then they moved it back to Nicollet after the construction was done. Well, then the pandemic happened. Well, then everything really went downhill, right? Um, and then after the pandemic, it came back and it just wasn't showing the numbers that it had been before. And you can attribute that to a lot of things, but mainly because the people weren't working in downtown. We had that hybrid situation, right? So I come into it very brand new. And as a new market manager, I need to learn the market that I am going to run 7 days out of the week at that time. And I just didn't have the bandwidth to take on Nicollet Mall. Um, and at the time, it just seemed like a better decision to focus on the market off of East Lindale and really get that under wraps. So I changed that. I don't think there was a lot of people that were happy about that. And I still feel like there's probably some people that aren't happy about that. And the people being the consumer. But I can tell you there wasn't too many vendors that were too upset about it
Well,
because they
in
weren't seeing the numbers anymore.
right, and I think that the way I viewed it, and also the decision to stop the 7 day a week being that we're open every day 365 days a year. I think that was it like pruning a plant to make it stronger. I think you just took away some of the things that were sucking energy out of everyone to concentrate your efforts.
Yes, and that was a really big bone of contention too. Oh, now we're not going to be a 7 day a week market. Well, I think we could be a stronger market, just like you said, if we were a 5 day a week market. It just made the most sense. And the two least busy days were Monday and Tuesday.
I think that it was just difficult to lose the tagline of open 365 days a week, and it's just Minnesotans don't like change. I'll tell you that much, for sure. And that was a
Farmers, which
Minnesotan thing to say.
Yeah.
So
And there's much-
I feel like that those two moves made me feel like the market was geared for survival and moving forward in reacting to what was, has been going on in our city in a very, very positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in order to progress as a farmer's market, we have to progress with the times.
Yes, I agree. And so I want to talk a little bit about just schedule changes and how you, I mean, you cut the hours down so they're starting a little later because obviously when you're there too early, people don't show up. So there's no point of, and some of these farmers are driving and your vendors are driving an hour or two to get to the market, which means, and some of them are picking in the middle of the night. I've heard
Yeah.
that a number of times. So they're getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning, picking and then driving. So what are the hours now currently?
So we are Wednesday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, we maintain the same hours, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And how about the winter market?
So winter market's going to vary. We have kind of a funky schedule for the winter market, but we are at the market every weekend in November, every weekend in December. You can also find Christmas trees in December, and that's daily actually. So depending on what you're looking for. And then it changes when we hit January, and we're there for 2 weekends in January, 2 weekends in February, March, April. And then when April hits, we hit every Saturday until the last weekend, and it's Saturday and Sunday. And then we
Okay.
start summer season all over again.
And you have quite a system of communication between social media and your newsletter. I am very impressed with how I always know what's going on at the market, and it's right there at my fingertips if I need to know. You have a new website that I love.
It's great. Yep. Sophia Zimmerman has put so much effort into that website, and she's just been a godsend for me because she's a whiz with that kind of stuff.
Wonderful. So, and Sophia, who is out of the country right now in Italy, the homeland, she's at the homeland.
Yeah.
Um, she had a lot to do with the SNAP EPT program as well, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and what exactly is that?
So we have a really robust EBT program. It's a really wonderful thing for those who can utilize it. So basically, you bring your SNAP card down to the market. We have a terminal, and we take your card and take, for example, $10 off your card. We give you the $10 in EBT tokens, and then we're able to match you $10 in market bucks. And you're able to do that every day that EBT is open. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That's amazing. Who funds that?
So with the produce bucks, excuse me, the market bucks, we used to have produce bucks that was federally funded, and now we don't have that anymore. But with the market bucks, I believe that's a state funded program.
Okay. Um, are there other alliances, other groups that you're affiliated with um, concerning food?
Yes, so we work really closely with the food group, which is in New Hope. They come down to the market every Sunday when produce season is really in full swing, and any farmers that are willing or able to donate produce, they pick up, they box up, and they distribute throughout the community.
Oh, that's amazing.
Last year, we donated 30,000 pounds.
And they're
Yeah.
just, and that's statewide.
Yes.
Okay, I was unaware of that. That's a fabulous program. Sometimes it's hard to believe that this market has been operating for over 100 years with generations of families. It's so impressive. In our next segment, we're going to talk specifically about how Minnesota's agriculture output mirrors and supports Mediterranean dietary values and a healthy buying and eating local food philosophy. This episode is brought to you by Bonicelli Cooking Club, home of the Mindful Mediterranean program. If you're looking for simple seasonal recipes, practical cooking strategies, and a more joyful way to approach food, you will find it here. Visit BonicelliCookingClub.com to learn more. Ashley, let's talk about what is going on in farming in general in the state of Minnesota. How do you see the environment for new farmers, for existing farmers? What is the environment?
So I can really only speak to what I know is going on with my dad, um, and the size of a farmer that he is. So, for reference, my dad does sell into all the major wholesalers in the Twin Cities. So, you're going to find my dad's sweet corn at Cub or his cucumbers at Coburn's, or you're going to find different products from him at major grocers. The problem with bigger farmers like that is they're putting a lot of cost into producing the product. I mean, everybody is, right? But things like um, box costs, um, there is labor costs obviously associated. My dad specifically is on a program called an H-2A visa program where he has help that comes from Mexico every year. He's got about 35 guys, but the state mandates what he pays them. He also has to provide them housing, transportation, um, different things like that play into like the cost of his product. He's trying to sell a quality product for a fair price, but unfortunately, I feel like with a lot of grocers in town or wholesale houses rather, sometimes they can find the product cheaper out of state, and they're choosing to buy from Michigan or Washington or any other place where they can get it cheaper outside of Minnesota. And I really think that when we talk about local produce, sure, it's local to the US, but not necessarily always local to Minnesota. Um, so I find that always really frustrating and interesting. The other thing with new farming is it's hard to get into farming. It's hard to get land. It's hard to get the funds to get started in this industry. So I feel like pretty soon, with how things are going, we might even see a downward trend in larger farmers because also think about the housing developments that are going up. Where are they being put
Yes,
up?
on
So,
farmland.
yeah, exactly. And housing developments are paying a lot of money per acre, and the farmer's going, geez, I can't even sell my product for that price. So this seems like a good deal. Like this seems like a good way out. So I think it's a very interesting time in farming.
I feel like people need to accept the fact that good food is expensive, and
Yeah.
it's the key to your health. So paying for it, it's a pay now or pay later. You know if you eat quality food with that's nutritious and good for your body, as opposed to something that isn't well produced, has a whole bunch of pesticides in it, or and no quality control, and isn't produced locally, which means that real downside to that is that it's been sitting somewhere for a long, long time. So you're going to lose that freshness in the shipping, and that affects the nutritional quality of it. So I never ever feel badly about spending money on food.
Oh, yeah, and you're so right. That's what's so great about the farmers market is it's fresh. You can't get any fresher.
Yes, and the other thing about the farmers market and that I love is I love talking to the people that are either growing it themselves or really close to growing it themselves. In other words, they're part of the operation. Maybe they're not the ones in the fields, but they're a part of the operation, and they know what they're talking about. From
Yes.
what the quality of the product is when it was picked, which is a question I ask all the time, and 9 times out of 10, it's late at night the night before or early in the morning the day of, and you just the second it's picked, that process of losing nutrition starts. So the closer
Correct.
you can get to that, the better off you are. So I want to talk a little bit about the Hmong community at the market, which is quite large and quite impressive, and they bring some wonderful things to the table.
They bring so many different vegetables that I've never seen, never heard of until I was at the market managing the market. And I would walk around and I'd be like, "What is this? Oh, you've never seen this?" I mean, they're shocked because they also know my dad's a farmer. So I'm like, "No, we don't grow this at our farm." "Oh, it's bitterball." Bitterball, what's that for? "Oh, well, there's a lot of cultures that like to put it in soup. There's so many different uses for it." I've never heard of it. I've never seen it because you can't get it in a grocery store.
Right.
So it's really cool to see the cultural vegetables that the market has that you won't find anywhere else.
And I feel like watch people walking around with things that I know they are like, oh, I'm just going to try this and figure out what to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. And I think that the variety of things that I see, like just the variety of peppers, when that season
Oh, yeah.
hits, and the variety of tomatoes, and the fact that you can buy huge amounts and and that's still going on. I absolutely love that.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't think that everybody takes advantage of it like they should. Like for myself, I don't have a chest freezer, so I don't do a lot of like freezing anything. However, one of the Hmong farmers last year, she had given me a big tray of like Thai chili peppers. And I'm like, "Oh, Miss Dia, I don't need this much. Like, I just need like a couple. I'm making a dish. Like, I don't need this much." "No, take it," she says. And I said, "But what am I going to do with it?" She said, "Freeze it." And I said, "Okay, well, it's not that much. Like, I don't have a big freezer, like I said, but yeah, okay, I'll freeze it." I have been using those all winter long.
Hmm.
They are so spicy still. They are so good. Um, Now we're building a house and it's going to be one of the mandatory things that I have in my new house is a chest freezer because of all the produce that I'm able to get my hands on throughout the season and how well it actually freezes.
Yes.
I mean, yeah,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that people think that freezing food diminishes the quality, but it doesn't.
totally,
Yeah, especially
totally
if you.
disagree.
So the Thai chilies, what I do with those is I ferment them. I make a sambal
Oh,
oelek hot sauce, and it is powerful. But it's also that fermentation process makes it super good for your gut. That
oh,
is, if
sure.
you can stand the heat. Obviously,
Yes,
you can stand the heat.
I love it.
Okay, so tell me about some of these other unique vendors that you have at the market. I mean, we know we love our mushroom,
Oh,
Josiah,
just that.
our mushroom
Yeah.
guy, um, but other people at the market.
So I've got a variety of things, everything from trout, fresh trout, to I'll have a bagel sandwich vendor this year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So fresh trout, bagel sandwiches, cookies. I've got soap, goat soap. Um, I've got a little bit of everything, which is really fun to see that it's a one-stop shop.
And
You can pick up just about anything.
cheese vendors, some
Oh,
really nice
absolutely.
cheese vendors.
Cheese, eggs, meat. You can grab a coffee while you're doing all of your grocery shopping. The one thing that I don't have, and I wish I did have, and if anybody knows of a good person, I wish I had a milk vendor.
A milk vendor. Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
have milk.
I think
Yep,
that's a
it's like
great
the one
idea.
thing I feel like we're missing.
Well, I think you're missing olive oil too, but there are not a lot of
I
olives
have
grown
one
here.
now. I have one now.
But a vendor.
I don't have a vinegar vendor, but I do have an olive oil vendor now.
You do?
I, j- I do. I just accepted him.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll have
You're
to
one
look
of the
into
first
that.
people. His family actually has an orchard in the Middle East. I verified this through pictures of him. I've met him in person. I've seen him in the pictures. Really a nice family. So that's something that people can look forward to this year at the market as well.
I cannot wait. Thank you.
He's got 4 different varieties.
That's ask and you shall receive. It just happened right now. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about education, which I view myself as being a part of, as the market demos are, I think, very important to me and have been for years. And I've been fortunate enough to, be able to parlay my food philosophy on people unwittingly sitting in my audience. But what a plethora of things to work with. And it has really informed me as a chef. And that's actually how I started with the market. I don't even know if you're aware of this, but when I started my meal delivery service many years ago, I was determined to bring that European way of cooking into my life, which means you go to the market and you find what's fresh and good, and then you build your menu. Not you build your menu and see what you can fit into it. You start with the fresh produce. So the reason I started doing the demos is I would be down at the market at, when it opened, buying my produce and whatever I bought chickens at the time and a lot of pork. That's same vendors are still there,
Yeah.
and I would build my menus and cook. And finally, they said, "Well, would you like to come and do a cooking demo?" And at that time, they were having a lot of different people and different things going on. And I remember my first demo, I was so nervous, and then I just thought, you know what? But I loved it. I thought I am going to get good at this because I really want to be here. So that's how it started for me. But other than the cooking demos, what other types of education are you involved in?
So we're trying to focus a lot on kids' activities and getting kids involved in different things that are farmers market. Last year, for instance, for Mother's Day, we did a pot, build a pot for your mom. So they got a plug plant, and then a pot and some dirt, and they each got to pot their own plant for their mom. We have done that. We've got the master gardeners usually on Sundays during plant season.
And that's the U
So
of M.
yes, it is.
Yes.
And they're available to ask any of your gardening questions, any of your concerns, or anything like that. We've done different talks at the market. Josiah specifically did one on mycology last year. Um, Trying to think of anything else. I think with education, I think while there is things that we've done in the past, there's always something new that we can do because there's always people that are wanting to learn something. So I think it's just something that we're really going to build on.
So, what if you had to say what sets the Minneapolis Farmers Market apart from all of the other markets? I don't know how many there are in the Twin Cities, but what would you say sets the Minneapolis Farmers Market apart?
For me, it's the vendors and getting to know their stories because we have so many of them, and they all farm differently or they all make a product differently. At my market, I have 82 produce vendors, but not every vendor is going to show you the same zucchini or tell you the same story as to how they started their farm or how they're farming, what their practices are, but also the variety that I have. I would say that definitely sets us apart. And then, of course, our size. I've got 170 stalls between our three sheds. And then I've also got vendors that are out on the sidewalk because I don't have enough space to put them in one of the 170 stalls. So I think it's really cool to see that and the rotation and how it grows throughout the season.
I agree. It's quite a festive environment.
Yes,
But what I really love about it is there is actually so much produce because I think a lot of markets have, a nice mix of things, but I'm there for the food. So, and there's lots of food.
there's lots of food. I think with a lot of other farmers markets, there's a lot of like artisanal products and craft products and those kind of things. And while I think they definitely have a place at a farmers market, and I think it's really cool, I think our market has remained committed to being a food market.
Yes, well, even if you look at just corn season, I buy corn from everyone because all of the corn, while it's all sweet corn, it's all different.
It's all different.
Yes.
Yes, that is such a true statement. And it couldn't be any more true with sweet corn.
Yeah.
That's
And
interesting that you know
eggplant's second, maybe peppers are second, and then eggplant. But they are not all created equal. And it's really fun
eggplant.
to just experiment side by side with what people are growing.
Okay, I never would have thought there was a big difference in eggplant. I'm not a big eggplant eater, to be fair. I eat more corn and peppers. But interesting. Now I'm gonna have to try out some eggplant.
So, if you had one piece of advice that you'd like to share with market shoppers to improve their experience, what would that be?
Come early because the earlier you come, the better the quality of the product is. Plus, you're going to get a better parking spot, and
Hmm.
everybody loves a better parking spot. Also, bring cash, but bring small bills. It's hard for a farmer to break 100 right away in the morning. Also, unfortunately, with our society, not always are we looking at $100 bill and going, "Oh, is this fake or is this real?" So,
Right.
small bills are best. Early in the morning, good parking spot. What else? Oh, get to know your farmer or the vendor you're buying from, because, like I said, while I have 82 produce vendors, everybody is so different. I also have a number of people that make canned goods, but everybody is so different again. So get to know the person you're buying from, because while you may come down there looking for the best price, sometimes the price isn't what it's about. Sometimes it's a relationship that you build with that vendor. And I think that's worth maybe the dollar more that you're going to pay on a certain product.
So, the one thing that we did not talk about is the upcoming renovations.
Oh, and I'm so excited about those. So we have a pot of money to work with, some of grant money and some money from the Met Council. And with this money, we're going to bring the market up to ADA standards and kind of bring it into the 21st century. So you're going to see updates with our bathrooms primarily. I think that will be the place that people notice the biggest improvement. So that'll be really great. We are getting a new office for the market, hopefully a new space to run EBT out of, because we do have such a robust program that we're going to dedicate a specific space to this. Um,
So the whole office area will it be taken down or added to?
well, that's what they're trying to decide right now. And
Okay.
that's the interesting part of us as an organization running the market and the city owning the market. So the city is trying to decide how they would like to see the structure change, with our input, but ultimately it is their decision. So they're working on that right now. Hopefully, it will still be in the same spot, just a little bit bigger and a lot newer. And then we're also hoping to get a new area for like cooking demos, for music, for customers to sit down and eat their lunch at while they're at the market. So there is big changes coming, and that will start after this season in the fall.
So I believe that because the city of Minneapolis has owned this property for this length of time, that unless the property changes hands, those they don't have to be compliant with those standards. Is that true?
So I we've there's been much debate about that, because that is
Okay.
what my board has said, and the city is saying, with part of this money being from a grant, the grant is requiring that we bring things up to ADA standards. So that's really what the driving factor is. Um, there are certain things that we don't have to change because it's considered historical, for the amount of time that it's been there. So, yes and no, I guess is the answer.
Okay. Well, as long as it gets done, however it
That's the
gets done, we'll be happy that it is done. Ashley, thank you so much again for your work, sharing your story, the market story, and giving us a wonderful picture of the Minneapolis Farmers Market.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time. It's been wonderful to talk to you about this.